Well, hey there, everyone. I'm Richard, and I want to welcome you back to Cowboy Survival. You know, I've got this bush belt that we put together a couple months ago, and I really like it. It's a great tool belt for going out into the woods and doing my bushcraft. I've got a lot of tools on it, but there are a couple of things I didn't have on it. And one of the things I really needed was a foraging pouch. So we've got a foraging pouch, sort of like this one right here, that can fit on most belts, and you undo it, and you fold down the bag, and you've got a little foraging pouch right here for you. You can put tools in there, you can put nuts and bolts in there, you can put nails in there, you can put all kinds of pegs in there, whatever you need to put. The problem is, most of these that I buy off of the internet are not going to fit this 2-inch belt. They'll fit up to a 2-inch belt, but they just won't fit a 2-inch belt. I've tried several of them, and I just can't find one that will fit. So instead, we embarked on the effort to make our own. And over the last couple of weeks, this is what we did. We started with some plain duck cloth. We made some waxed canvas out of it. We then took the waxed canvas, we made our own bag. Now what we've got to do is fasten this bag to something so that I can carry it on my belt. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look at how to take this foraging pouch and attach it to a leather belt holder so that I can put this thing on my belt, fold it up, and carry it on my belt right here. So to start the project, the first thing I want to do is find some leather that would fit the color of the belt I have. And this dark leather here comes pretty close to what my belt has, so I thought that this would be a good leather to use. This leather does have a little bit of a white mark on the back of it, but I'm not going to worry about that because that's going to be on the back that I'm not going to see. The second thing is I need to have this thing so that I can put it on my belt, and so I've got to have a piece that comes across the back, over the front, and then a piece that comes up like this. So I made a little pattern. I'm going to use kind of a unique sort of bushcrafty clasp on this. I'm not going to use studs. I'm not going to use rivets. And so that's all I needed. So I cut out a little sort of template form that I could use using just some duck cloth. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it out on one of these pieces of leather. I got a piece that's just big enough, a scrap that's just big enough to fit this project, I think. Just like this. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to cut out this piece of leather. And I've got to be really careful because I've got to do it exactly. I can't mess this up because that's all the leather I've got. So I'm going to have to make sure and do this exactly like I want it the first time so that I've got all the pieces I need. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a piece to put on the back that'll fit on my belt, and it'll be wide enough so that I have 2 inches that I can fit on my belt. So that's going to be sort of the plan, and what we're going to do next is cut out this piece of leather so that it's exactly the size I need for this project. So I'm going to take my square, and I'm going to use it sort of as my guide. So I'm going to put it right along the edge of this fabric, so that I know exactly where I've got the fabric. I can do this right along the edge, and that's going to be my first cut. So I'm going to take my razor, and I'm just going to cut down this whole pattern right here. Hopefully, I'm measuring out this thing properly. And I'm actually going to go over it twice with this knife because I want to make sure that I cut this all the way through. I don't want to have to come back and trim it. There we go. So there's the first edge I've cut. So now I need to put my fabric back down. My little template, my little sort of, we used to call these, my grandmother sewed, she would call it her form or her pattern, she would call it. My grandmother used to sew. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to cut down this end down here. And there I've got my piece of leather that I'm going to use for the outside of my pouch. I'll have it like this. It'll come around and it'll clasp like that. And now I got to cut a couple pieces for the belt loops. So I'm going to make a single loop to go on the back of this. So I'm going to first straighten off this edge. It's got these little dings in the edge. I'm going to get rid of those. And it's interesting. It's almost the width of this thing. In fact, I'm just going to do the width of this thing. I think it's going to make my life a whole lot easier. I'm just going to do the width of this. So first I'm just going to chop off the top part here because we don't need it. So the way this is going to work is this will go over the top like this. It'll come around the front. Now my belt loop is going to be over here on the back. What I'm going to do with my belt loop is I'm going to fold it over and I'm going to sew it this way through both pieces of the leather. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it down and sew it down here near the bottom of this. So I've got a full 2-inch length that I can put my belt through on this loop right here. So once I decide exactly where the bag is going to be positioned on this long piece, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the bag itself to the piece of leather. But what I'm also going to do inside the bag, I'm going to put a little piece of leather like this on the inside so that I can reinforce that sewing spot so that this bag doesn't just pull off with the threads. So that'll be in there sort of as a little a reinforcement. And I'll sew through both this and the back. But the trick is going to be making sure that I get this thing positioned right where I want to position it, this little piece of leather, and then line up my holes. Now my holes I'm going to do with this little tool here that I can use to punch the holes through this leather, through the fabric, and into the other leather so that I can make sure that I've got my holes all lined up when I do my sewing. And remember, I'm going to do all this by hand. I'm going to use a sinew thread, and I think that that's going to really be nice and strong for this project. So I don't know if you can see it, but I've already sort of pre-scored some holes, or where I want the holes to go on this leather. And I know I want it to go right here. I can always see the mark here where I want it to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that back over that. This is for my belt loop. So I'm going to go and punch the holes for that. So I'm going to use this little tool. It's kind of a neat little tool that you can get. I got this down at Hobby Lobby. You can get it pretty much anywhere for leatherworking. And we're going to take this, and we're going to line this up. Again, I get one shot at this, so if I mess it up, I'm up the creek, right? So we're going to take this, and I got to pound this pretty hard to get it all the way through. So what'll happen is I will take this piece, I will line it up, and I'll sew it. Then I'll bring it down here as far as I need to make it. Now, I'm not going to actually do this part yet until I'm actually done. So I'm going to be using this synthetic artificial sinew thread that I got at Hobby Lobby. This is 70 pounds. It'll handle 30 yards of it. I don't need 30 yards, of course. But I'm going to use this. I think this will be a good product to use for this. So I'm going to start on this side and to go up through that hole. And I'm going to pull it through, but I'm not going to go all the way yet. I'm going to go back through the next hole in my series. I just got to find it. I'm going to leave a tail because when I get done, I'm going to tie this off and let that tail go up underneath this. Now, I am also going to go into this, but remember, I want to make sure that I'm actually got it in the right place. So before I start pulling all this tight, I'm actually going to make sure that I've got that I'm doing it in the right direction. I've got everything exactly how I want it. Now, initially, this is kind of hard to figure out where you want the thread to go, but once you get it started, the holes get kind of lined up, and so they get kind of easy to work with, especially once you make the first turn. And what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way around, and then we're going to come back out the other side. Now, before I go any further, so what's going to happen is we're going to sew this, then eventually this piece will get sewn down here, okay? Now, before I go any further, I want to make sure that I am actually going in the right direction with this. I'm going to fold this bag up the way I'm going to have it. So this bag is going to be like this. I'm going to fold it over. It's going to come up. It doesn't hurt to keep checking. Make sure you're doing it right. Make sure you're not making mistakes. If you make a mistake, then you got to undo everything and come back and do it. So that's what I want to do right there. Okay, so I'm in good shape. So now I can finish sewing this piece here, and I'll show you what it looks like when I get done. Okay, so I've gone all the way around once. Now I'm going to go back through and go all the way around again and fill in these gaps. Okay, so I've gone all the way around twice, gone all the way around, then all the way back, filled in the gaps. Now this time I'm going to go back in here, only I'm not going to go all the way through. And I'm going to push this through and bring it out this way underneath that little flap. Now you're going to see why. I'm going to pull that on through a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off because I don't need that much. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to take this, I'm going to tie this off like this, and I'm going to pull it nice and tight. And watch that knot disappears right up underneath that leather. So you'll never see the knot, which is kind of nice. Just a neat little trick so that you don't see the knot in your leather. I have the first part of my belt done, or my belt piece. I'll take this will fold down and will attach down here so that I can put this on my belt. Now what I can start working on is attaching this piece to my bag. So this one's going to be a little trickier because I've already got this other piece. Now I can feel, when I do my finger here on this bag, I can feel, I want this line of thread to be right at the base of where I threaded here. So, you know, when I did my pocket for my string. So I can feel where that is. It's right there. So I'm going to move this bag down until that seam is right about where that pocket starts. Now, and I can actually do it down a little lower, it doesn't really matter. I also want to make sure that this bag is pretty much in the middle of this before I start it. And I think it is. I'm going to eyeball that, and that looks pretty good. It's right about where the folds are. You know, I've folded this so many times, you can see the lines for the folds. And so I think I'm going to move it over just a tad. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this back. I'm going to go down and feel the bottom part of this box. See that bottom part? I can feel that seam. And I'm going to put this piece right at just below that other set of threads. And I'm going to try to get this piece sort of also in the middle of my piece here. Because now what I'm going to do is, all I've got to do now is go in and poke my holes and do my sewing. Now, I've already pre-scored this piece, so it's going to be a little easier because I know where I'm putting the holes, but you got to do pretty hard to get all the way through. Let's see, did I go all the way through? Not quite. Going all the way through is hard. And remember, when you pull it up, you don't want to move the fabric. You want to leave the fabric right where it was. And I went and pulled it up. Okay. I did exactly what I said not to do. So I'll put this in here. And I put I put one peg right in one of the holes already made, and then I do the other, and that way they stay evenly spaced. Okay, so I've gone all the way around once. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my needle and thread. I'm going to start going right back through again, all the way around. And it will create a solid stitch line that will be really strong with this sinew to keep this bag from pulling off of this belt holder. All I've got to do now is cut off these loose ends. And it's starting to take shape. So this down here for my belt loop. And the belt loop will be something like that. And then this will be ready to attach my closure piece, and we'll be done. Okay, so I'm getting ready to sew the belt loop, and I've fit the belt in here, and I've decided where I want it. So I've marked it with my little perforations, and I've got a perforation. I'm going to actually sew it on the outside as well. So now I'm going to take my hammer and put my holes all the way through this, now that I've lined up this piece of leather that's going to be for the actual belt loop. Now I will trim off the extra leather after I've sewn this down. So what I've done is I've rounded off my edges, because if I didn't, those corners would eventually roll up over time. I've glued a couple of reinforcing pieces right here. Now here's why. The way this clasp is going to work, I'm going to bring this up and this down. There will be a piece of deer antler right here that is tied to this, and then I'm going to have a loop that comes up from here that'll loop over that, and that's going to be my closure. Now, this is pretty thin leather, so I wanted to reinforce it, so I put a couple of these thicker leather pieces here, and I'm going to use those to reinforce where those connections are. Now, to glue this down, this piece here, I could have sewn it, and I may still sew it. I haven't decided yet, but I used some of this 3M, high strength fabric glue. This stuff is amazing. This is an adhesive that will not come apart no matter what. I glued a horse blanket together once, and the horse couldn't tear it apart. This is really powerful. Once it dries on here and cures, it's going to be really solid. I'm going to be able to go. So I'm going to drill a couple holes in here, and I'm going to then be able to take that deer antler piece that I'm going to have, and I'm going to be able to tie it through the holes there so that it stays. Now, this I'm going to do some holes, and I'm going to have a loop of leather that's tied back here, but also comes up through here, and it'll actually come out through the bottom. It'll go through the back, out here with tie, and I'll have a loop that'll come up that will hook around the deer antler. So we'll see how that works. I think it's going to work pretty good, and then we'll be done with this project. So I've got this deer antler, and what I'm going to do is I would need to cut me off a piece that's long enough to fit right here, but not so big that it's going to be overwhelming. So I think I'm going to cut this piece right out right here, and then I can drill a couple holes in it, and I'll be able to attach it to my flap here. Okay, so I cut a little piece of deer antler and I sanded off the ends, and I've drilled a couple of holes in it, and this is going to be the part that my loop goes over. It's going to go up here on the top piece right here. So I've got some little leather stripping. I'm going to pass it through this hole, and I used a really small drill, so I didn't want to make great big holes in this. And actually, before I do that, what I want to do next is I'm going to position this, and I'm going to go get a needle, and I am going to make a couple of holes so that I know exactly where to punch my holes with my leather punch. I'm going to put this one right here. I'm going to put this one right there. Yep, that's where I want them. Okay. So I'm going to put that in that cloth right there so I don't lose that needle. Now I'm going to take the smallest hole punch I've got, and I'm going to punch a couple holes in this all the way through the leather that I'm going to use to tie this off. There we go. Now I should be able to take this. I'm going to put my thread through, and I want the angles to be toward the pouch, so it'll be more likely to hold my loop on there. Pass this one through here, and this one through here. And go to the outside of my pouch. I'm going to try to punch this one through here, and it may be tough because it's a tight little hole, so I may use my needle to help me there, because that is it. Now what I'll do with this is I'll just tie this down to a knot, and I'll tie it again. And then all I got to do is cut off my ends. So I'm trying not to cut the leather while I do the ends. So that is on there really well. Now all I have to do is attach my lower piece and my loop, and we'll be done. So for this piece, what I'm going to do is I am going to cut to do 4 holes in a square. And 4 holes. Now what I'm going to do next, get some of my leather strapping. I'm going to cut off quite a bit, but I'll cut off the extra. We will pass one end through here. And an end through here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back out the back side. And we'll do the same thing with this piece. We'll come back around the other way. So what we'll do is this will close around this. I can pull it tight. And I'm going to tie a knot in the base of this. Actually, I think I'm going to get one of my button slides and put it on there. So I've got one of my little sliders here. These are really great if you're trying to create something that you can tighten and loosen at will. Try to get my leather, try to keep my leather all going in the same direction so I don't get it twisted looking. Because that's ugly when it gets twisted like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm also going to take this, I'm going to tie a knot in this down here. I could braid this, but I'm not going to. So now, here's my pouch. And when I want to loosen this, I just loosen this. I take this off. That pouch will undo. If I want to do it back, I do this. I can tighten it up, and I can pull that too, and it's going to stay latched just like I want it to. Okay, let's see how this looks on my belt. Okay, so I've got my little bag here on my little foraging pouch on my belt. So to get this done, I just simply loosen this right here. I take my loop off of my deer antler clasp. This will fold down and open up. And the way this deer antler will hold that flap down in there nicely, I can put nuts, I can put kindling, anything I'm wanting to collect while I'm on the trail, I can put in this, and then when I get to where I'm going, I can take it out. When I want to put the bag back, I simply am going to take it, I'm going to fold it like this and like this. I'll fold it up once, up again. I'll bring my bottom up, put the loop around my deer antler, and I will then pull this tight. And I can tighten this up if I want to, and that's going to stay right there where I want it. Man, what a great project. Did this whole thing myself. First, we waxed our own canvas. So then what we did is we made a bag out of that waxed canvas. And then after that, we attached the waxed canvas to our belt using this leather attachment. Really fun. projects like this are great because it gives you a great sense of satisfaction. It also, you have to learn a lot of new skills perhaps that you haven't used before in order to do something like this. If I did another one, would I do it differently and maybe make it a little nicer? Probably. I might use a little thicker leather on another one. I might also just make a little fancier stitching just to make it look nicer. But I tell you what, I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's going to be very functional for me, very useful, and I did it all myself with no power tools, except, well, I did use a drill to drill a hole through the antler, and I used the hair dryer to spread the wax. But other than that, I didn't use any power tools. I didn't use a sewing machine. I did all the sewing by hand, and I'm really satisfied with how it turned out. So go try something like this. It might take a couple hours or an afternoon to do it, but I think you're really going to enjoy it. In the meantime, if you like the video, click that like button down below. We'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, and we'd also love for you to hit that notification bell so that when we have other videos coming out over the next few weeks, you'll get a notification that those videos are ready for you to view. Don't forget our Wednesday morning devotionals, and in the meantime, stay strong, stay prepared, and have a blessed day. We'll see you real soon right here on Cowboy Survival.